Hi, I'm DeAnna. Are you ready to ditch the I'm not good enough story and start rebuilding from a place of worth? Each week, we dive into the messy middle of transformation, real stories of reinvention, career pivots, and people who rewrote their identity and their lives. I am not here to sugarcoat. I'm here to wake you up to what is possible. So if you're ready to reclaim your power and build the life that feels like home, you're in the right place. Welcome to Worthy and Rewritten. I am joined here today with Lee Smith. She is an inspirational speaker, 6-time international best-selling author, and the founder of G3 Mastermind, an online community helping high-achieving women shift from reactor to bold creator by rewriting their self-talk. With over 3 decades of study in personal growth and positive psychology, Lee is known for making confidence practical and repeatable. She's the creator of the Candy Method, a simple framework that helps women quiet their inner critic, rebuild self-trust, and take courageous action even when they don't feel ready. So if you've been looked successful on the outside but felt hesitant on the inside, this conversation is for you. Welcome, Lee, to the show.
Thank you so much, DeAnna. Really excited to be here with you and talk about self-talk.
Yes, it's such a prominent topic as a therapist. It's all about that self-talk. What's that inner critic telling you? And it's usually a critic. It's never usually very kind to us. And so this is going to be a good conversation that I'm hoping can help many.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about you. What's the first thing we need to learn?
Yes, probably why is self-talk so important to me? Why is it a passionate topic? And I would say that it was my journey from depression to direction with purpose. And that story begins about 10 years ago when I was on a holiday with my family, and we had this amazing trip, 23 days in Hawaii across the 4 islands. Sounds amazing, right?
That's
Like
amazing. Yeah.
who gets to do that? And so that means there were 22 incredible sunsets. If you have not experienced a Hawaiian sunset, make it a must do. It's definitely one of those things that you've just got to do in life. And there was this one particular sunset where we were standing on the lava beach, and my husband was taking up his photography, which he has for a passionate hobby, and he was trying to capture the golden hour light just right. And my young teenage daughter was cradled in my arms at my side, and we were having a sweet mother-daughter moment. And off to the other side of me was my grown stepson, who was there with his then girlfriend at the time. So I'm surrounded by people that I love in this beautiful paradise. And I caught myself thinking things like, who gets to do this? I'm thinking I'm in a beautiful place. I'm thinking I'm surrounded by people that I love. And then as I was thinking and thinking, I noticed that I was only thinking. Here's this incredible life moment, building a memory, and yet there was no feeling attached to it.
And there's a big difference.
There is. And I thought, who am I right now? What's happening? And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know who I am in this moment. And I was in this chapter of life, a great chapter of being a stay-at-home mom. So I was fulfilling a dream that I had convicted in my heart at the age of 14. And here I am living this experience, but I also got caught up in the mundane of it, right? The waking up and, preparing the meals and lunch boxes, getting the kids to school, running them from place to place, the never-ending cycles of dishes and laundry and house cleaning and all of that. And so while I was living something that I truly desired, I also got caught up in the details where I was no longer present in the moment. And so that caught up with me in these latter years to the point where here I am standing on this beach, and I felt like I was covered in what I call dust. And if you can imagine, grabbing, little particles from your hair, right? It's like I was covered in dust being a wife. I was just a stay-at-home mom. I was just a stepmom. I was just a daughter. I was just this shell of a woman, numb to this incredible life experiencing that I was having, knowing that not everybody gets this even once in a lifetime. And I realized that's not good enough. This is not cool. We're going to stop this right here, right now that I'm aware of it. And so I drew a line in the proverbial sand, and I stepped over it and I said, you know what? And this is all a conversation I'm having in my head. My family did not know this was going on. There's a new year coming right around the corner, and I am not going to care how selfish it seems to anyone else. I need to figure out who is Lee Smith and what makes me happy, because I know how to make my husband happy. We've been married for 15 years at that point, and I knew how to make us put a smile on my daughter's face. I knew how to appease my son. But when it came to me, again, I was coming up empty, and that was not good enough. So I said, I need to figure that out. So a few days later, when I came home stateside, I recognized I'm in a depression. And when I did more self-reflection, it was like I had been living in this depression for over 2 years. And because I'm so happy and I put a smile on my face, it was a mask. It was a
Right.
mask I had even from myself, if you can imagine that. And so the beginning of that quest was moving from the bed to the corner of the couch. And that's where I watched reruns of Friends, because it's my favorite sitcom.
And it would
And
give you a little bit of pleasure, I would imagine. If you're feeling depressed, it gives you a little bit of pleasure to,
yes,
yeah.
right, that little bit of laughter. And there happened to be a local comedy troupe who I adored. They put on an improv show every weekend, just the first 3 months. So that was perfect synchronous timing. So almost every weekend I was down front and center getting my laughter on there. And then the third thing I did was there was some networking I was doing. I was very active with the Yelp community at that time. And so I was doing networking there. And so I knew who had an amazing sense of humor. And I thought, if I can just get into their space, some of that positive energy would rub off on me. So 30, 60, 90 days of doing this, I reclaimed my joy. And I rediscovered who I am. And it was all through that self-talk conversation. And I when I found my joy again, I realized I want to get back into public speaking. That's what I was pursuing before I became a mom. And I thought, yes, this is what I want to do. My daughter's going to be graduating from high school in a couple of years, so this is definitely the next chapter. And when I looked at all these years of studying personal development, from Tony Robbins to Brendan Burchard to Norman Vincent Peale, Zig Ziglar, so many of these greats in between. And thankfully, as I continue my journey, women popped up too as leaders, from Marie Forleo, Brene Brown, Mel Robbins. And I thought, okay, I want to be that next thought leader. And because I focus so much on this awareness of my self conversations, can I take that out into the world? And that's where I developed the Candy method and my concept of reactor to creator. And this is now what I get to help women do, is take a look at their self-talk, because you're right. Most of it is negative, right? It's the inner critic saying, you're not good enough. You're not ready for this. Who wants to listen to you? And what makes you think you're so special? Right. And it's like,
Yes, it's
no.
constant.
And underneath that all is the truth. And that's what I discovered about myself. The truth is that you have what I call genius, gifts, and greatness within you. And that's why I started the G3 Mastermind, because that's what it stands
Okay, that's
for.
where it comes. Okay. Love that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I have to just rewind for a moment, because I think I heard, tell me if this is right. I think I heard that since you were a very young girl, you wanted, like, raising a family was so dear to your heart, and there you were doing it all. And now, as you're saying, I'm just a mom, and I'm just a wife, and I mean, yeah, my heart's breaking for you because you're feeling that.
Right.
What's that moment like, to go, this is everything that I did want. This is what I manifested from a very young age, and here I am, and now it didn't feel as fulfilling. You could tell there was a void, like, because I'm thinking, you're not just a mom. I mean, you're
Right.
right.
Yeah, when you're
Very
saying,
fabulous.
right,
Yeah.
when you're raising children and when you're raising little human beings, there is so much power that happens there. And the I would say, in the early years, when my daughter came into the world, and the first, probably I would say the first 10 years, fully present and living every day. I loved taking care of my family. And even that day on the beach, there was a deeper underlying love of doing everything that I was doing. I just wasn't present to it. And so with a lot of factors at play, and I won't bore everybody with the details of that, but with all the factors at play, and I lost being present. I got caught up in that mundane, and then there became an underlying resentment. And instead of focusing on the good and staying present to that, I started letting the little irritations pop up. And there were probably instances where I turned those little pops into molehills, and those molehills into mountains of irritation and frustration. And when I stood there on the beach and rediscovered myself again, it was a matter of coming back and being present and not looking for the joy, but finding it within me to bring out the joy in the things that I was doing. And also looking at that I needed to pour into myself. What happened was I had poured so much of myself out, right? Taking care of my husband, taking care of the family, taking care of the house, taking care of the family, if you will, that I wasn't paying attention to me. It was like, okay, I got to show up and I got to make the meal. I got to show up and I got to do the homeschooling. I got to show up and take the kids to soccer practice or whatever their extracurricular activities were. And then, I got to show up and do the dinner and the meal planning and the grocery shopping and all of that. And so I wasn't present in that. And once I came back to that, I found my joy in that again. So even the latter 2 years when my daughter was finishing up her high school years, it's like, okay, I actually had to reestablish my marriage again. I was so disenfranchised with my marriage at that point. Again, a lot of factors at play. But when I came back to being present and I focused in, and it sounds selfish, but it's a backwards thing. I focused in on what makes Lee happy. And when I looked at that, at what makes me happy, and then I did the things that make me happy, then it allowed me to focus on the good. I had to challenge myself like, okay, you're so easy at finding the complaints about your husband, Lee, but what is the one good thing that he did today? And because I had conditioned myself to like easily find the negatives and that wasn't years on end, it was just those latter years. But when I was trying like, okay, now that I know what makes me happy, can I find the good in the relationship with my marriage? And it took diligent effort, but I forced myself to do that because I wanted that restored. And when I did that, my husband responded in his way, right? And where he actually was doing more positive things. And there became a reconciliation and a revitalization of our marriage. And if it's okay to share the date, we're here in April 2026. This is the month that I get to celebrate 25 years of marriage with my husband.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And to know that there was a time where I felt like I had nothing left to give. I had to look within myself to make that flip and say, no, you need to be fully presently. Where's the gratitude for everything that's happened up to this point? And where can you keep looking for the good? And when the healing process happened, here's a funny story I'd love to share, DeAnna, is that we had reached the end of 2018. 2019 was coming around the corner at that point. And I thought, I'm so happy that my marriage is coming back together. We've got the communication, we have the friendship. That's great. But something I have always wanted in this marriage, and I don't quite have it yet, is laughter. I had found the laughter for myself, right? Now I wanted it in the relationship. And romantically, we girls fantasize about our guys making us laugh, right? And I heard my inner nudge say, if you want the laughter in the marriage, you have to bring it, Lee.
Yes.
And I resisted. I was like, no, I'm the girl. It's the boy who's supposed to make the girl laugh. And that nudge said, if you want the laughter in the marriage, you need to bring it. So I challenged myself in 2019 to make my husband laugh at least once a day, whether it was me doing something silly or punny or witty. Some way, somehow, I was going to make him laugh. And that was the magic. It was being present then, right? Not, again, making sure I didn't get lost in the mundane. But when I focused on that positivity and finding a way to make him laugh, when 6 months into 2019, I found myself falling in love with my husband again. So it was pure magic at that point. It's really amazing when you really become mindful of your self-talk and where you direct it. the magic and the power that can happen.
Well, your self-talk is going to create an energy. If you've got this negative dialogue going in, or like the unhappy, and like you said, I was pointing out all the negative, I was noticing all the things I didn't like about the relationship. How's that energy? Your husband's not going to be making you laugh when you're showing up in that type of energy. And so I am curious, when you were having that negativity, and I could be wrong here, was that a projection because you actually weren't happy with yourself? You weren't doing the things that you, like you said, I wasn't pursuing. I was just a mom. I was just a wife. I was just. So now I'm just curious, was that a projection? Now you're noticing all the things he's not doing right. Was that really because your soul was craving what it was missing?
Yeah, I would say it was a little bit of both, but change couldn't happen if I was going to keep pointing the finger, right?
No.
Well,
Yeah.
he keeps doing that or he keeps doing this. And so things are not going to get repaired. And if I didn't take an honest look at myself, there's only so far that the relationship could move. So even if he did make any changes, would I see it? Because I was so focused in one lane, right? And then if I had so much dirt in my eyes because I wasn't taking care of the frustrations and the falling short within myself as a human being, as a wife, and so on and so forth, then how could I really have a clear lens to really see the good within him? So you're absolutely right in that awareness and looking at myself. And there was one point where my husband and I were on an 11-day cruise, and I thought, okay, this time period with no family, no friends, no responsibilities, it's just the two of us. If we don't get through these next 11 days, I think it's the end of the relationship. And it was on day one, that same day, that I went into the bathroom, just me, myself, and I had a hard look at myself in the mirror. And I just deep into my own eyes to say, all right, Lee, this is how you're feeling, but let's get to the real truth of the matter. There's over 1 trillion cells in your body right now, and you have to know with every singular cell, have you, Lee, given every bit into this marriage before you think about throwing in the towel? And it was like, no, I haven't. Okay. It's like, I have to work on that. I have to work on myself first and then give that best part of myself to the marriage. And that's where things really, really started shifting, that I turned away from really looking at my husband at all. And I just kept the eyes on me and focused on that energy. And that's where things like really turned around and bloomed. And then my husband, he caught up in his own way where he was looking at himself like, I'm not the husband that I want to be in this marriage. He's like, okay, I want to step it up. I see you stepping up. I want to step it up. And yeah, just amazing. And, we're not perfect. And even though we've overcome this, we still have some setbacks, and we just recognize, okay, we're having a human moment, but now we can talk more openly about that. And yes, certainly when I continue to focus on, well, what's the narrative that I'm telling myself? I don't allow the just anymore, right? It's like, I'm not just a wife. I'm not just a mom. I'm not just an entrepreneur. It's like, no, I'm Lee Smith, and Lee has her genius and her gifts and her greatness. Well, how am I taking that out into the world now? And, not only just for the world to see, it's like, no, how am I showing up in my relationships, whether it's with my husband or with my kids or with my inner circle? And then, in a situation like this on a podcast, how am I showing up and shining those things? And then in the broader world, how am I doing that too? So yeah, it's a continuous self-challenge.
I love that. And I love how you both started, that's where the transformation happens. It's like, no, how am I going to show up different? And then all of a sudden your partner starts showing up different. And then the momentum just begins, right? It's this dance,
Right.
changes, the pattern interrupt. And suddenly you're both doing things much better than if you were to keep pointing fingers, because nothing's going to happen then.
Absolutely.
At all.
Right. Absolutely.
What am I doing? Yeah, I love that. So I'm so curious about what is this react? What did you say in the introduction?
Yes, reactor to creator.
Reactor to creator. Yes.
Yes. And so, like our audience is hearing, it's like, who was I that day on the beach? I was reacting to the various situations, right, without being fully present in the moment. And so that led me to feel like I was putting out fire after fire after fire, whether it was my family needed something, or society is saying, hey, this is what you're supposed to do, or I had an email or a phone call or what have you. I'm going after these goals and maybe even a dream, and yet I wasn't really accomplishing anything. And I felt busy and I felt stressed and I felt overwhelmed. And so if you are in a safe place and you're able to do this, I invite you to grab a pen and paper and write out this word. It's such an important word. And that word is reactor. And what I'm doing here with DeAnna is I'm showing her Scrabble letters. And so the reactor feels like life is happening to me, or why does this always happen to me? And being like I was in that spot, like where all I could see was the negative, right? Where's the good happening? And maybe I forgot about being grateful. Where's the gratitude in my life? Am I conscious and aware of that? And being so busy, and I was like the letter C in reactor, where I felt just stuck in the middle of all the things. I was unhappy in my marriage. I was unhappy in my life. And sometimes this happens in business too, where we're trying to do all the things and we just feel so busy and we're so exhausted at the end of the day, wondering, what did I really accomplish? And do I really get to do this again tomorrow? And what I invite you to do is cross out the letter C. If you're writing it down, cross it out. And I'm literally taking out the tile out, taking that C out from the middle of all those things. This could be a moment of catching your breath. It could be taking a break from it all, going out for a little walk. It could be a half day, a full day, or maybe you need a mini vacation for yourself where you just get away from all the things so that you can take a heartbeat to see yourself for who you really are, that you are amazing, that you are brilliant. And you have what I call, like I said, the 3 Gs, that genius, those gifts, and those greatness within you. And it makes you you. I liken it to a cell phone number where 95% of the 8 billion people around the planet have a cell phone, which means many of us have the digits 0 through 9 in common. And yet no two numbers are exactly alike. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
And so it is with the 3 Gs, that we may have some overlapping commonality, but the 3 Gs make you, you. And so when you can see yourself first, like I went on a quest to do with myself, and then you put yourself first, that's where the magic and the transformation happens. Because when you do that, you see what becomes important, what matters. So if you're writing this down, you crossed out the C from the middle of all the things. Now write it in front of the rest of the letters. And then what becomes important, what matters, what is priority, what is in alignment. You're no longer just, you are purposefully and intentionally directing your attention towards the goals and what really matters most to you. So now you're no longer the reactor, you are the creator. And when you do that, then you are more productive versus just running around being busy. You can set the boundaries to what do you say no to? What do you say yes to? You're managing your self-narrative, that self-talk.
Yeah, I was
You're
just going to ask you, where
managing
did
your
that self-talk come in?
energy.
Okay.
You're managing your energy. And so now you are the creator of the day, the week, the life, the year. And if you're an entrepreneur, the business that you truly want, you're doing it on your terms. And you're going to bed maybe a little tired because we're still human putting out energy, but you're not exhausted. You're going to bed fulfilled. And with that little bit of excitement of, do I really get to do this again tomorrow? It's a whole different tone, a whole different tone. And it's so important.
Yes, absolutely. When you are creating, when you're being purposeful, like you said, like in that depressive state that you talked about, that is, you're in almost like this poor me victim state, like things are done to me. It's because of everybody else. But when you move to purposefulness and being a creator, everything changes.
It does.
I was going to ask where that self-talk fits in, and now I get it. Yeah, I love that.
And you can use that as a tool. It's a concept, but you can use that as a tool so that when things aren't going, according to your expectations or according to plan, a disruption or a distraction happens and you're like, I just need to take a beat. And you just push yourself away, let's say from the desk for a moment, and you're just taking a breath. You're taking that deep breath in, letting it out, and then ask yourself, am I being a reactor or a creator right now? And saying, okay, I don't want to be the reactor. I want to create the best version of myself in this moment. How does she show up? And then showing up that way. And so asking yourself that question will allow you to express that appropriately. And it's great to
I'm
see the
loving
results
this
that
so
happen
much.
from it.
This feels different than I usually talk about, like the victim or the victor mentality. This is similar, but it feels
Right.
different, just using a different
Yes.
language. I like this because it, again, that creator piece gives me a little bit more power in my direction of life and where I'm going and control over I really like that. Did you create this on your own? Is this
I
a framework?
did. I
Yeah.
did. So many of our thought leaders, like I started with Tony Robbins over 30 years ago. And if you listen to him and all of our thought leaders through today, they will tell you that there really isn't anything that we can control in life, right? There's outside circumstances that happen all the time. And even internally, we might have some chemical things going on, biological, physiological, and we feel like, we can't control, and yet there's such a desire to control. And so we talk about attitude and we may not be able to control the situation, but we can control our attitude. And so a lot of our thought leaders say, we can either choose to react or we can choose to respond. And it's just in that split second where we have that control, or we at least create that sense of control. And I say that we always have choice, but I put it in this framework of we can choose to react or we can choose to create the best moment out of it. And so when I saw the words like that, I thought, oh my gosh, it's just a matter of changing the C. And just how amazing is it that the reactor, the C, is really in the middle of
No kidding.
everything. And that's what a reactor feels like. But when you do put yourself first and you do the alignment, if opportunities come your way and it's not aligned, it's not a right fit, well, then say no, because you are creating the environment, the life for yourself. And even when it comes to your self-talk narrative, when you hear the inner critic, well, you're not ready, you're not good enough. It's like, no, I hear you, but I'm not going to listen to that. I'm going to choose to create the empowering statement of, I am growing and I am becoming who I'm meant to become. And instead of being stressed and overwhelmed, it's like I prioritize what matters most. And that's where I direct my energy. And the things that you create out of that moment, they become so powerful and fun. And it makes life fun. Doesn't make it easy. I won't say that, but it makes it more fun. It feels more doable. So where we can get that greater sense of control. So yes, other thought leaders, they do teach on this concept, but I did come up with this framework myself. I haven't seen anybody else do it this way.
Right. And so yes, we can control our attitude and our reactions to things. And I have one of my clients, she was only 15, and she said to me, the only thing I can control is my thoughts. I'm like,
Right.
yeah, you're so right. So, we're adding here, attitude is very related to our thoughts and everything. But yeah,
Yes.
you do have control in situations, even with that. If you're talking about your thoughts or your
Right.
attitude, your reactions, we have a lot of control. You're right. We can't control the circumstance, but we can definitely. Yeah. Well, I love this framework. I get a little visual from it. I love that. So step away from myself, remove that C, take a minute, don't react. And then, okay, how do I want to show up? I want to start creating. What am I okay, and step back, add it to the top and begin again. And I love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so, sorry, I'm rewinding again.
Yeah.
Did you start to change I'm going to call it your attitude within the relationship, the way you were showing up, you put that mirror, had yourself a really good heart to heart. Had you started to fulfill your dream of like the speaking and focusing on you again at that point? Or like, were they happening simultaneously? Or did you change your attitude first and then start working? How did that all piece together?
Yes. So when I had rediscovered my joy, when I was answering the question for myself, Lee, what makes you happy? And I thought, oh well, it's being an extrovert, and I love networking with people and making connections. And I thought, well, is that something that I can monetize? So I built my first business at that point, and it was called B to B Matched. So the letter B, the number 2, the letter B matched. I worked with local business owners who were in their brick and mortar, and they were so busy doing that they wanted to be connected to other people. Maybe they needed an insurance person, maybe they needed a bookkeeper, maybe they needed some other things, but they themselves didn't have time to go out and network to find those people. And because that was something that I loved doing, I created a membership contract where I would go and vet those connections for them. And it was a business I created on my own and started it, but it was a conversation I was not having with my husband at the time. So that was one of the things that I needed to give to him. I was doing the things that was making me happy, but I wasn't including my husband in those conversations. And once I started doing that, I actually bloomed in the business. And then in the learning process, I learned along the way, I don't quite have all the tools and resources to make this a sustainable business model for me and the way I wanted my business to be. So after, I think it was about a year, maybe a year and a half, I did shut that down and I realized I really want to focus on speaking. And because I had come up with the reactor creator framework at that point, I thought, all right, let's go take this message out into the world and see how it lands and to see it create aha moments for people. It's changing lives. They start using it as a tool and they're like, oh my gosh, my days are so much better. I'm so much happier in life. I am creating more productivity, more success. And then I moved into developing my candy method and using it as personal development, then as a productivity tool. And then I used it as a speaker confidence tool. And now I use it as a self-talk reframing tool. And that's the message I've been taking out to the world. So it did start with one piece. And then I realized I need to not only do this business for myself, but I need to look at these other facets of my life. I need that holistic picture. Because if you look at it as a wheel of life, as many leaders teach, if it's short on one end and longer on the other, the wheel can't roll smoothly. It's very, very bumpy. And that can create burnout. That can create that lack of fulfillment. And it creates that starts to seed doubt. Like, am I in the right place? Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing what I'm meant to do? And that can create a downward spiral again. And I thought, well, I don't want that. I want the whole wheel moving smoothly. So that's where I started dialing in my relationship with my husband and then going deeper within the relationship with myself. What is the self narrative so that I can remove the doubt or minimize the doubt? I won't say that we remove it completely. I think it's part of the human experience that helps us keep everything in perspective.
Yeah.
But looking at doubt, looking at fear, and then looking at where do I take my self narrative then so I stay in that creator place versus the reactor place and continue to move forward with that. And so that's where I've been able to take that and teach that out in the world.
I love it. Yeah. You're doing some great work. I mean, again, with self-talk, people need this.
Definitely.
What a great conversation today. Some great insight. I'm wondering, so CG Mastermind, how can people, if this is resonating, could they connect with you in some way if they want to learn more?
Yes, absolutely. So the best way is because I do focus on the self-talk and I help you rewrite your self-talk. I bought that domain. So you simply can go to rewriteyourselftalk.com and I will happily share a free gift with you. And that is my positive self-talk guide that I call Don't Say That, Say This. So it's a worksheet where on one side it's all those inner critic sayings that are very typical, right? I'm stressed, I'm busy, I'm overwhelmed, I'm not ready. And then on the other side, it tells you the positive reframe so that if you're thinking, yes, Lee, I'm aware of the negative things that I say, but how do I reframe that into the positive so that it really serves me? And so I give you those key phrases that you can flip it to. So it's a page that you can keep at your desk by your side. You can put it as a wallpaper on your phone, or you can tape it to your bathroom mirror so that as you're starting your day, and if you hear those things, you're like, nope, I'm flipping that until it becomes habit. And I believe in that so much, number one, because I'm a walking example of that. I fully walk my talk. And two, I believe that if we have more people take in agency of that self-talk, that's where self-leadership really begins. And when we have self-leaders moving in that right direction, I believe that's where we really, really change the world. And I just want to share a quick story. One of my clients who she was just like, Lee, I feel like I'm in such a negative cycle and I want to be a speaker. I see you showing up in the world and I want to be a speaker. But I just don't have the confidence to do it. Anytime I get a microphone or if I get put up in the front of the room. I'm just shaking with fear and insecurity. And I said, okay, well, let's have a journey with your self-talk. Tell me, what are some of the things that are coming up for you? And so she did, and we got to the root cause of that identity, at looking at who she really was in that moment. And she was the scared little girl. And I said, well, let's show that inner little girl that she is safe and she is supported. And then we can change the narrative, the self-talk, to really transition that. So I gave her the key phrases that were going to work for her. And when she did that, she started showing up on stages. The shakes weren't there. She was up there, poised and confident and delivering her message. And now she's running in-person stages herself. And I'm happy to say I'm coming full cycle, because later this year, I am actually going to be speaking on her stage. So it's a beautiful thing to see her go from this little, not that she was little, but inwardly she was shaking, and she's like, I don't know that I can do this. And now she's putting on in-person events where not only is she showing up on stages, but she's allowing other people to shine on those stages too. And so that's a beautiful thing, that is this shift in your positive self-talk.
And you're brilliant to explore that identity. If it's that scared, right, that small child that needs to be seen, and she's afraid, and she's going up on that stage, of course she's going to be shaking. You got to shift that identity. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So what a pleasure to have you here today, and what a great conversation. I'm taking away lots of great tidbits here. I'm going to use the reactor. That's great. Geez, I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Again, thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure, DeAnna. Yes, and I look forward to seeing all the listeners who tune in to rewriteyourselftalk.com. I look forward to having a conversation with you.
That's it for today's episode of Worthy and Rewritten. If you enjoyed what you heard, please hit that subscribe button. It helps more than you know. I'm on a mission to help as many people as I can wake up their worth and build lives they don't need to escape from. So please share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, if your gut has been screaming that there's more for you, listen to it. You're not too old, too late, or too far gone. You're right on time. See you next time.